Hi guys, and welcome to episode 4 of Journey of Elaina. And today's episode was essentially a revenge story. First things first, we'll get past the fact that I am recovering from a mild dose of tonsillitis, so I might sound a wee bit weird as I'm kind of getting over everything. I think we can discuss some of the more problematic issues that I'm seeing arising around the anime at the end, just because I think today's episode was one I can wrap up quite quickly, where today's open essentially sets the story, where we open with a story about love. We get a princess who falls in love with the castle cook, where we find out there is a class division amongst the country. To be fair, most of the time when there is a princess or a royal family involved, there's always a class division. The princess is expected to marry a prince. That's your standard kind of fairy story. There's a lot of moments in this actual episode where I was like, this reminds me of that fairy tale. That reminds me of that fairy tale. And we do get Elaina pondering why we fall in love. Why is it falling in love? So is it because it's unexpected or because we're falling into a pitfall? The princess in the story falls pregnant. That's where we lead off into our credits rolling. It's just very interesting. I guess people sometimes think that love is a sickness, so maybe it's because you fall ill with a sickness that is love, and love makes you do unquestionable things at times. Let's talk about the episode itself. So this time, as always, we start with Elaina flying in over her new place of town. Today's title is Princess Without Subjects, which I had a few hints quite early on, and I'm going to try and highlight the bits which started to raise the little red flags that was going on. So we see her flying into a war-torn region where there's nobody around, and we can see there's teddy bears laying in the snow, which thought it was a bit weird that they focused in on the teddy bears. I had a moment where I was like, is it Ash? She catches one of the snowflakes, and I didn't realise that she melted the snow in her hand. I thought she was actually just playing with it, so it looked like it was Ash, but we do see her breath, so Elaina is definitely cold. Elaina says that it's going to take her quite a long time to get to another city, so if she was to leave now, travel straight on to another city, she wouldn't get there till about midnight. Her only real choice is to weather out the night and stay in this place until it's safe enough to travel onwards to the next town. She sees the castle and ends up going through a barrier. Initially there's no one there. I think I remarked that the lights are still on, so I wasn't quite sure that there wasn't anybody there, where Elaina decides that she has to fire at the door. She says, I was reluctant to do it, but I have to do what I must do, which is fair. I mean, there's no one around. Chances are there's probably nobody alive, and if it is a life and death situation, she might freeze. Overhanging our hall, we've got 3 pictures. We've got a king, a queen, and our daughter. This first moment when I said this reminds me of the entrance to Beauty and the Beast, where Belle enters the castle and it's just lifeless. So there's quite a few little hints to fairy stories themselves within this actual episode. And then we are approached by the owner of the castle, which is the girl in the picture. First little hints that something might be a little bit amiss is the choice to put the princess in red. The colour scheme is red and black. Just a very odd choice, and it wasn't something big. I initially just went, bit of an odd choice, and kind of brushed it aside. You guys know me and my breakdowns on most of my other videos. Red tends to be a colour that something dangerous is going on. It's also a sign of passion. I guess that fits because this is the character who was in love. We get a cup of tea and we have some tea whilst we start to discuss and get some backstory to this situation, where the princess, or the girl who we meet, we didn't know she was a princess straight away, was Mira Rose. So Mira Rose, Elaina says what happened to the town, where Mira Rose tells us that she has no memories. She is suffering from amnesia and she can't remember how she got there. She just woke up and she was in the middle of everything. I said this is like Sleeping Beauty. It's a Sleeping Beauty moment where the princess wakes up. I did write down how the hell has she got food, but that is answered later in the anime. I take notes during the anime, so I figured I'd read it now, tell you what was going on in my brain at the time. It is actually explained later on that she can cook herself. Just something which came up in my brain when I was watching that. Mira has a letter. So there's a letter and it says princess. So we know that she is the princess of the country, where the letter starts to read really oddly. And even Elaina says this person sounds like they're quite profound or higher up The letter even says, look out the window. It's just a really odd way for the letter to read itself. I love the fact that Elaina uses her magic to make a magnifying glass. I do want to see more of the magic. I think with this series in a whole, I'd like to see some more of their magic because it's very pretty to use and it's nice to see what they can and can't do with the magic itself. The magnifying glass is great. I love it. She can see that the cause of the destruction in town is a dragon or a demon called Javelier. The demon is also apparently the cause of her amnesia. This dragon wakes up at nighttime to kill everybody, and its plan is to wipe out everybody in town, including herself. Elaina asks, why don't you leave? And we find out that the castle is safe. The dragon cannot enter because there's a magical barrier. And as well, the dragon will follow her if she leaves the town. Mira Rose is revealed to be a witch, and it is her duty to kill the dragon. Elaina starts to query the letter itself, like, where did Javelier come from? Why are you the only person alive? Why have you lost your memory? How many days has it been since you woke up? And it's now a week later where Mira Rose says, I'm going to fight it because it's my duty. But she's also quite confident. She's like, I will win. And she says, I've remembered how to do my magic, where Elaina says, that's fine, I'll be cheering from you from a safe distance. I don't blame you, Elaina. This thing looks awful. The fact that it's eaten absolutely everybody who stood up to it. I have questions. We'll save questions for the end because I've got quite a few this episode. So Elaina says she won't help because there's nothing to gain. And we'll cover this big pressing point right at the end. I want to discuss it at the end because I'm aware of the comments and I'm aware of what people are saying essentially. So we'll talk about it at the end. The next morning when we see Elaina with some amazing bed hair, really does look like me. Mira Rose is baking, which we knew that in the story before there was a cook. And even Elaina says, why is the princess cooking? And Mira just says that my body remembers how to bake and the food is really, really good. As we're going through my notes on the episode, I can highlight where I started to doubt sections in the story or I started to question Mira Rose herself. At the table, Mira Rose asks Elaina, can you help me prepare? Where Elena's like, because you've let me sleep here and have given me a good meal, I will help you prepare, but I won't fight. I doubt the letter's credibility, so something isn't sitting right about this letter, and to be fair, the letter was bugging me at the time as well. It was the only thing, it knew who she was, and this letter didn't really introduce the author itself. Mira Rose, however, doesn't doubt the credibility because she says, I can feel the author's hatred, which is where I've got another stop point because I don't trust a certain character. We've got a bit of symbolism going on where we see Mira eating a bit of bread. I think there's jam on it and the jam gets on her lip and it's on her mouth. It just looks like blood. It really and the fact that the camera spent quite a little bit of time there looking at it. So we are drawn to looking at her eating the bread with the jam on it. Something is amiss. It's a bit odd that she's in these certain colours, so the anime definitely wants me to look in on this. Up to now, this anime has been quite good at colours. I definitely think if it's choosing to do certain colours, it definitely wants me to pay note to what's going on and what it's trying to draw attention to. Cut now to the preparations where we can see Elaina doing all the hard work, which is where I also started to I found it weird that Mira Rose wasn't even lifting a finger to help her. And it's like, well, you've asked her for help and you're not doing anything. Next fairy tale it kind of resembles is we have a Fantasia moment. I know it's not quite a fairy tale, but it's a fantasy and it comes from Disney along the lines where we've got this Fantasia section where she's kind of using her magic and there's buckets everywhere and we've got these cute teddy bear helpers and she's digging a hole. The plan is to trick Javelier into falling into the hole where once it's stuck in a hole, she can attack it with her magic and it's a bit of an ambush. Elaina is struggling. Sometimes we overlook the fact that Elaina is still a child. She is struggling to keep up with the heavy drain on the amount of work she's doing. She digs this massive hole all by herself and she does all the magic herself. And Mira Rose thanks her and says, let's meet again later. And then I'll treat you to dinner, where Elaina then says, no thanks. It's a lot of effort for you who, after you finish the big job like it is, I will cook. Don't die. I'm going to come back to this later to address an issue. Elaina ends up going to the fight anyway. And again, keep it in mind that she does actually go. And she says, I feel like I wanted to see her live. I'm going to fight as well. We see a nice sequence of Mira Rose leading Javelier to the square with her firing at him. Note as well that her magic is red. It's just the fact that they've chosen the colour red. At this point as well, Mira Rose is wearing black. She is wearing a black dress, like she's in mourning, like the Grim Reaper would wear, because she is the executioner now. Javelier is following her and ends up falling into the pit anyway, where we begin the barrage of magic. And this girl is not exactly a light witch. She goes ham. She has a lot of magic to her disposal. We also get a quick cut where Elaina is very nervous. We see her nervously gripping her wand because she's still a child. She is nervous. She is waiting for Javelin to approach. When Elaina sees the barrage that Mirror Rose puts up, she's even like, oh, I guess you really didn't need my help anyway. And we see everything. We see her using fire. We see her barraging this thing with ice. And the ice gets melted away by Jevalier when we start to see the fire going mental. And Elaina ends up coming out into the square. We see a barrage of electricity. We then start to get flashbacks mixed along with the fire sequences, which another big giveaway that not everything is reading as it should be and not everything is as it is, where we can see a man being burnt at the stake. Putting two and two together, you know that her lover was burnt at the stake. She then goes all Gilgamesh on everybody's bum. I'll put a picture of Gilgamesh's arsenal here, and then her with a barrage of swords, which is brutal, and it cuts off Javelier's head. All we hear is Mirror Rose going, goodbye, father. I remember everything now. I remember everything. And she is cackling away, going crazy, and she, even though Javelier is still dead, she's still firing upon it. We finally cut to her telling Elaina everything. So the story at the start, we're now just going to get the ending to the story at the start, where she told her father about the child and the fact that she was in love with the cook, where the king decides to execute the cook in front of her. Mirror Rose then puts up the barrier on the castle, and she ends up cursing her father, turning him into the dragon. But she also wrote the letter to herself because in exchange for doing a curse, she loses her memories. I like this addition, that to do something like a bad thing or do a negative magic, that they do suffer a consequence, which is quite nice to see that implemented in the system. Whether we're going to see that kind of thing again or whether it's just a one-off, who knows. And we also know that the letter was from herself. And Elena's even like, but your father destroyed everybody, the country and the people, where Mirror Rose is like, well, he did that whilst he was conscious of being the king and he ate them all. It's essentially just a revenge story. So we get another episode where we've just got a story and we've got a moral of the story going on. It's a very dark twist to it. It's a revenge story. And essentially she just wants her dad to feel what it's like to lose those dear to you. So he was aware that he was eating all those innocent people. The last scene, Mirror Rose is wearing white, and white is generally a sign of innocence. We also see the white flags, which is surrendering generally. She's all alone at the table and essentially gone mad. I feel like she's gone mad at the end of this one, and she essentially becomes the princess without any subject. That is the episode. That's not a great deal to say. Another one of those episodes where we've got a story. Elaina is essentially our watcher. She is like us. We're experiencing the world through her eyes. I have to get it out here. I am not a manga reader. I am not aware of the manga. I'm not aware of the light novel. I haven't even looked. To me, the anime, yes, I've got issues with it, but I've not got the issues where obviously you guys know when stuff's missing. So I understand, and I've read your comments and I've seen other people elsewhere talking about it, that it's a very bad adaptation. That may be so, and I will take your words on that one because obviously I don't know any different. To me, the anime that we've got here, what is actually in front of us, from a non-manga reader point of view, it is reading like Kino. And I like Kino's journey. I like the kind of episodic play out where we travel town to town in this magical world and we get stories every time we go somewhere. I like that. But I can understand why people are upset because obviously Elena's coming across as not caring and Elaina isn't the same Elaina from the stories. And obviously things have been shuffled around, so they're trying to do it thematically. I am interested, and if I'm still interested at the end of this anime season, I might pick up the light novel just to have a look, just to see what you guys are like. And you never know, I'll turn around and go, yeah, actually that was a really poor adaptation. And it probably is. But to a non-anime reader who has watched Kino, I'm still getting entertainment from what I'm watching. I'm seeing it more as an episodic thing where we follow Elaina through different towns and we see different lands and different stories. We are nothing more than an observer. Elena's goal in life, which was established at the beginning of this anime, was to write stories like Nikki did. And that is what she's doing. She's going around, experiencing the world she's in and writing stories. The big point I keep seeing coming up, and it's not just in my reviews, it's in other people's as well, is Elaina is coming across as unfeeling. I kind of think that's not entirely the case. So in this episode particular, obviously as I was going through it to note a few things, Elaina at first doesn't want to get involved because, let's put it this way, she is still a child. She has come to this place, she doesn't know the entire details, so why would she put herself out there to fight a demon when she doesn't know the full details? She doubts the credibility of the letter. She doesn't trust where the letters come from. She clearly maybe even doubts that she herself would have the power to take it down, because she remarks how strong Amira Rose is during the fight, that she herself is not needed. And no matter how good Elaina has been shown to be up to this point, she is still a very young witch. She hasn't had full magic long. She hasn't been trained for too long. The likelihood of her being able to take on that demon thing on her own, I don't think her chances are anywhere near as good as Mira's chances are. We then see the next day when Elaina does offer to actually help her with preparations. Mira sits back and does nothing. And we even see Elaina struggling. She is able to repay good kindness, so obviously she was repaying the meal she's had. Obviously a good deed for a good deed. She's not the kind of person who is going about willy-nilly just doing good deeds for the sake of it, which doesn't make her a bad person. It just makes her more of a complex, realistic character in a sense. There are plenty of people in even the world around us who don't do something for nothing. There's plenty of people like that. Wouldn't call them bad people. There's a word I'm trying to get at here. You're not kind of doing good things for everybody for nothing. That doesn't make you a bad person. If you do a load of good things just for nothing, at the end of the day, you're the one who's going to be exhausted. You'll probably find yourself suffering a lot and you yourself tiring out, burning out very quickly. There is a point when you need to think about yourself. We also see Elaina in this episode actually showing concern for Mira Rose. She says, I don't want her to die, so she ends up going to the battlefield anyway, which is a key note to note, that she's not coming across as super warm. She's not that warm kind of character, and we've seen that a few times. She's definitely a complicated character. By no means do I think she is uncaring. She is just a young child exploring the world, probably not with the greatest handle on the world either. She's had a lot of the people around her shunning her because they don't like the fact that she's young, and a lot of them have cast her out and not tried to help her out. So up until this point, her experience of the world hasn't been a good one. They say the best thing you can do in your life is travelling, because travelling makes you a well-rounded person. We are following Elaina and her journeys, and I believe that her journeys will lead her to become a different person, to become more well-rounded. And even in this episode alone, we are seeing Elaina evolving. We're seeing her starting to evolve. She's finally seen somebody who she kind of goes, yeah, actually, I'm a little bit concerned. I'm going to go and help out. I'm going to go and check that you're okay. I'll fight alongside you. Even though it kind of turns on its head where Mira Rose is completely crazy at the end of the day. And Mira is responsible for murders as well. Yes, something awful has happened to her. Absolutely awful. She has retaliated by cursing her own dad, who has killed everybody in the country. Absolutely everybody. A bad deed is not cured by a bad deed. Two wrongs do not make a right, is the moral essentially that this story is trying to get across. Mira Rose, at the end of the day, now that everybody is absolutely dead, she's alone. The story ends bittersweet. That's what a lot of these stories that I think Elena's trying to get across. It's an episodic anime where it's not happy-go-fluffy. So it's not a typical anime where the anime protagonist is a goody-goody-goody who does everything and they help everybody out, and they do things for nothing. They're just that proper hero. Elaina is a hero with faults. She is a character with many, many faults. I think in that sense that they're trying to make her realistic and relatable. Me and many of you guys here might think, oh, that's a bit harsh, or that treatment is wrong. But we have to try and bear in mind that taking this as anime value only what I'm seeing in the anime. From what I've seen in the anime so far, had the very, very bumpy start where, yes, sure, I think at times she comes across a little bit haughty, a little bit stuck up, but I have met many children who think they are God sent. I'm not faulting her for that. I think we are following a not imperfect character who's going through a very imperfect world. And I think the anime itself, the adaptation in front of us, be it completely different from its source material. I know it's sad, and the manga readers itself, it's probably horrific to see what they've mashed up. And it's probably harder to kind of separate the two. I think it might be one of those cases where we have to separate the two, see what we get, and then kind of judge it as a standalone, judge it on its own. At the moment, it is playing very similar to Kino's Journey. I know I should stop probably like connecting the two, but because it's the nearest thing I can find which is similar, I'm comparing the two. That I think what we're getting isn't horrific. It's watchable. The animation is gorgeous. The characters have got a long way to go. We are slowly developing. It's still only episode 4. So far, it's very entertaining. I'm enjoying seeing these little short stories, and it's all set in the world of magic. So I, for one, am enjoying Elena's journey. It's not getting highest marks at the moment with me on Mal. There are plenty of issues. I've got plenty of issues with the anime episode at hand. I could see too many holes. Her having magic, or Mirror Rose clearly had enough magic to do something, and why she didn't protect her cook lover in general. But then again, maybe she wasn't expecting her father to fly off the handle and kill everybody. Who knows? Maybe he even had an army. My biggest issue is that sometimes simplifying these stories down is more harmful than good. The stories we're getting, which are, especially last episode where we had 2 stories shoved into essentially 10-minute slots, that the stories are very simplified. So I think my biggest issue with the anime as a whole right now, as only a anime only, it's very fast-paced, and obviously the stories aren't too detailed and not too complex, just because we're shoving them into 1 episode or 2 per episode, where things feel very simplified. There's lots of holes. But yeah, I just figured like I'd tell you guys the kind of how I'm going to be taking the anime as just anime only. It's just my opinion. I feel like I still want to review Elaina. I did actually almost drop the anime just because I felt like it was just going to get nothing but hate in the likes and the comments. And to be fair, there is a video which I am considering putting down, but it's actually not Elaina anime entirely, where it's just suffering from the dislike hammer. I am going to do my best to break these down as an anime only. I'm just going to break down what I see in front of me. Elaina isn't the perfect protagonist. She's certainly not what I consider morally good. I'm not putting her in a morally good section, but I do think there is room for the character to improve, and we've seen it this episode as well, where she's actually softened up a little bit, where she goes back and tries to save Mirror Rose. So I'm going to stick with it. Thanks for joining me, guys, and hopefully you guys don't hate this too much. The schedule for this channel is Monday is Moriarty, Monday, Tuesday is Golden Kamui, Wednesday morning, Ikikabura Westgate Park. Wednesday afternoon is Noblesse, and Friday is your Journey of Elaina slot. I will be continuing Elaina. I know I almost bowed out, but I think there's something going on here. I think it's definitely worth doing a little review video. Plus, the Elaina reviews don't tend to be too long, so I'm not losing too much of my time doing them. But again, I still had fun. It was a dark, twisted fairy story with an interesting end. It was interesting to watch. That was my review for the week. Hopefully you guys are doing okay. Also, thank you for bearing with my voice. I think I sound a little bit raspy at the moment just because it hurts. But I'm getting there. I'm making progress with some antibiotics. I will see you guys again next week, Friday, hopefully, for more Elaina. Hopefully, I also see you guys again for more episodes of my current fall releases. Have a good one, guys. Bye-bye.